I did. I'm gonna put it on Wi-Fi only, so I don't. You know what? It's too late for that now. How is that? Give me 10 seconds. You just tell me 10, then I'll count down. Inshallah. Okay. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulullah ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, my dear brothers in Islam, and welcome to a second episode of webinar coming to you from Al Kawthar. This is your brother in Islam, Alaa, coming to you from Canada. This is a webinar now from the Parenting Matters, but it's the kids in school now and home. So hopefully you haven't sold any of them yet and you're still married, alhamdulillah. And I know now that you understand how important the teachers are in our lives and you appreciate them a lot more than before. And now I understand. I actually posted one of them that you're going to be losing it. But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect you, protect your family, protect your health and wealth and your children. Inshallah, raise them up to be leaders. And speaking of that, today we're going to be talking about some of the importance of understanding with the children how to be raised, and also our duties. That's the most important part as parents, to be able to raise them righteously, and the futures and benefits of that, and the reward in the end, inshallah, comes to you in a few minutes that we'll share together today. Today, I want to ask you a question. Let's start with a question. I know we talked last week about marriage, so I'm going to ask you again a question. Why did you want to get married? How many of us actually wanted to get married to raise the next Salah ad-Din? How many of us wanted to have a child to be the leader of the Ummah and to raise him not just to be a doctor, an engineer, and so on, or a lawyer, but to raise him to be both doctor, engineer, lawyer, and also a person that memorized the Quran, or a child that has a knowledge, or the next Imam, or a Mufti, or. Why don't we work on both ways? And I'm going to also actually give you another challenge. Remember Hassan al-Basri, rahmatullah alayhi, when a man came to him, he says, please help my child, raise him, teach him. It is too late. And I remember this again, wallahi, over and over again. And it hit me hard the first time I heard it, wallahi. That's why I'm sharing it with you. So the Imam says, help me to raise my child. He says, it's too late. For the third time, the same request and the same reply. Because what do you mean? He says, raising your child, it starts with choosing the mother. So this is the proactive approach. Now, if you're already married, if you already have children, it's never too late, wallahi. But I'm just going to tell you about also the theories of Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu, and who is actually an orphan, not exactly what you think, and the 21 theory, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's talk about the definition of an orphan. I don't mean to make you, wallahi, feel bad or anything, but it's just to wake her up for me first, and for my brothers and sisters out there, inshallah. So what is your definition of an orphan? Uh, Not really looking for an answer. It's a rhetorical question, but if you make comments, by all means, feel free. So, according to some of the righteous, used to say, "Laysa al-yatim," the orphan is not the one laysa lahu about, the one that has no parents, but lahu ummun takhallat wa aban majhula. He has a mother and he has a father, but his mother is abandoned him, and his father is so busy for them. That's what we call the dollar sign dad and the career mom. Before I go into this, please understand that I'm not asking the sisters, wallahi, to stay home and do whatever it is that I understand that some of the countries that you have to have two incomes. I know that, wallahi. I've been around enough to know that. And I understand that the father usually thinks that my job is to make sure I put food on the table, roof over their head, and clothes on their back. It's part of the job. If I remember, when we talked about this again, Parenting Matters, if you were ever through the course with us before. And just a reminder, wallahi. So, what is it exactly that you do this? Some of the brothers have, alhamdulillah, done a great job. They've done amazing, they put their lives out there. And I understand some of us, wallahi, may have not even had the best education background, but we've worked part time, full time, double time, all the time, night time. yeah, just to provide our children a better opportunity that we did. We even came to different countries from whatever we call back home. We couldn't even speak the same language. And it was difficult for us. But all of that we did for our children. We do everything for our children. And I remember that. Remember when, as I mentioned the example before, remember when your wife came to you and says, honey, I have some good news. The doctor told me I'm pregnant. And you prostrate to thank Allah for the gift He's given you. And you put your hand in their tummy and you feel the kick. And you start planning. And you're thinking about I want to see them walk down the aisle. I want to see them graduate. I want to see I want to see their children, grandchildren. And, 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 and some of us will see that to come true. And some of us, unfortunately, that dream becomes a nightmare. So I'm going to give you some keys in order for you to make sure that you do your job. And again, before I go into the details, I want to take you off the hook. I want to make sure that you understand that if you do your part, if you do what you're asked to do, Allah will not hold you accountable on Judgment Day. And Allah has given us examples in the Quran, like Nuh alayhi salam, Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, and Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. One that had a father that was not a believer, and the one had a child that was not a believer, and both of them were ulil azm, among the five strongest, or most persevered of the prophets and messengers. Amazing, wallah. So I'm trying to tell you, if you do your best, because I get this complaint. Sheikh, I raised them righteously. They were in Islamic schools. I had the righteous mother. They memorized the Quran. They used to go, but, and that's what I'm going to talk about a little bit later on. What is this but about? Okay, then if you've done your best, if you've done all you have to do, and there's a wisdom behind it. Allah did not subhanahu wa ta'ala give you certain things, but He granted you a lot more. And either maybe a test, maybe He's your fitna, maybe whatever it is. But if you do your best, and if you've done up to the age of puberty, you've raised them righteously, not just give them the osh gosh bigosh and oh my gosh and all of the stuff, the pinky up with the strawberries with cream and all of these things. That's not what we're after. We're after it's not how you just fed them or give them clean underwear and give them the no no. How do you raise them righteously? How did you raise them Islamically? How did you do all your homework that way? Then if you said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not hold you accountable. But if you haven't, you will. Because Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, "Kafa bil mar'i ithman an yudayya' man yaqut." Wa fi riwaya man ya'ul. It's sufficient of a sin that you lead astray those who you're in charge of or responsible for, especially when those who you pay the money for, you meaning responsible, meaning ya'ul, your children, same thing. So I want you to keep in mind that please, I want you to read it, and there's a banner. The first banner is, if it is to be, it's up to me. So don't look around. Okay? If it is to be, it's up to me. I'm not going to point the finger to anybody else. And most of us nowadays, you understand even more, when we put them through Islamic schools, you think that's it, we're done. We're not done. It's portion of that. And it actually starts at home. Yes. So please, when you go to schools or Islamic schools, you think, you know what? Okay, raise my child. No, it's the wrong attitude. So who did this? Sa'id ibn al-Musayyib, rahmatullahi alayhi, he was among the most knowledgeable, if not the most knowledgeable, in Sayyid al-Tabi'een, Imam Hassan al-Basri, rahmatullahi alayhi majma'in. From the Tabi'een, he used to say, Wallahi, I remember my child when I do qiyam. And he says, when I do qiyam, I prolong my prayer. I prolong my prayer. So he says, because I heard in Surah Nisa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلْيَخْشَى الَّذِينَ لَوْ تَرَكُوا مِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ ذُرِّيَّةً ضَعَافًا خَافُوا عَلَيْهِمْ فَلْيَتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَلْيَقُولُوا قَوْلًا سَدِيدًا. So if you fear for your lineage, brothers and sisters, what do? Swiss bank account and a private jet, insurance policy, and no. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if you fear for your lineage, you have to have two down payments. So the first one is فَلْيَتَّقُوا اللَّهَ. And again, I explained this before, so let's take it one letter at a time, not the word. فَلْيَتَّقُوا اللَّهَ is be conscious of Allah. But let's take a look at the components of that word itself. It says, فَاء it's called فَاء التعقيب. And lam, if it goes into a فعل مضارع, تفيد الطلب والأمر. It actually is an indicative of a command and a request. And waw is jama'i, alif istimdari, so it says not just be taqi, but it's a command from Allah and a request. And it has to be in congregation, not just by yourself. It's plural here. And it's ongoing. That means it's istimrari. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned another in the Quran, and you have to have extra patience with that in order for you to have taqwa, in order for you to be able to raise the children. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأْمُرْ أَهْلَكَ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَاصْطَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. And command your children, command your family to pray, but be extra patient. Why? Because the word patient here comes in as sad ba ra, sabr. That's the root. of the verb. But when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala added a letter in the root of that word, as the scholars, our teachers teach us, they say, الزيادة في المباني زيادة في المعاني. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has an extra letter in the root of that word, is an indication of the extra meaning of that word. So don't just be patient, be extra patient with them. So when you command your children, why do you think you have to command them to do so? When Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told you, "Muru awladakum min salati al-sab'a wadribuhum alayna al-'ashr wa farriqu bainahum fil madaji'." Command your children to pray at 7 and discipline at 10, because they're coming very close to either the age of 15 or age of puberty. Narration, different narration of the hadith. Will they be held accountable? And it says, "And farriqu bainahum fil madaji'." We'll take that quickly because it's not really one of the principles here. But and it says separate in bed. That means this is a preventative measure, not to have any deviant of their sexualities later on and have any psychological blocks and so on. So even boys with boys, not together in the same bed, khalas, after 7. I don't gotta go to the 10 because now everybody knows everything. So and don't tell me like worse a boy and a girl. Yeah, so and don't tell me a boy and a girl they can't. And okay, listen, my head here and the feet here, so I'm gonna go like this. Still no go. Nice try though. Yeah. So the idea behind it is to have a preventative measure, proactive measure, not reactive measure. So in order for you to do this, you have to have the leadership. Remember when the child was told by his father, "Watch your step, son," and the son says, "Dad, watch your step because I'll be following in your footsteps." And that's exactly what we do, brothers and sisters. Please understand that when you have your children, they're like a sponge. They absorb, they look, they watch you. And after you watch you, what do they do? They just imitate. So if you're going to be asking them for prayers, if you're going to ask them to wear hijab, and if they're going to ask them, فَقْدَ الشَّيْء لَا يُعْطِي. If you're not praying, how are they going to pray? If you don't wear hijab, ukhti, how are you going to ask your daughter to wear hijab? And if you're going to marry a wife that doesn't have the deen, my brothers and sisters, and with all due respect, if you marry somebody that doesn't is not even a Muslim, and I'm not going to go to debate whether you were allowed to marry the people of Al-Kitab, the people of the book, in the Christians and Jews or not. That's not my point at this point. But at least think. Think about the time that the research shows that the father will spend from 20 to 6 minutes a day with the children. Who spends more of the time with them? It's their mother, my brothers and sisters. So please understand that this is exactly what you want. Don't blame anybody else. So if you wanted the 36, 24, 36, I'm happy for you. Enjoy. But are you going to be able to pay the price? But again, there's exceptions. I'm not going to generalize that. But it's a choice you make. I'll talk about love because it's part of orphans, by the way. Remember that? The orphan was what? It says he has parents, but his father is too busy and his mother is neglectful. So the mother, my brother, is number one haq, believe it or not, according to the teachers, according to our scholars, number one rights for your children before you even have them, to choose the righteous mother. Okay, that's number one. So when it comes to the ways that you can, what's number one haq? Some of the scholars actually say that the dua you make when you have intimate relations with your spouse before they were even created. Allahumma jilna shaitan wajna shaitan razaqtana. Eh? So Allah protect us from shaitan, protect our children from shaitan. The scholars say that does that mean that they're not going to sin or make mistakes? Of course they will, but they will die in the state of Islam. That's what the interpretation of this means. I remember, wallahi, and I used to think it's a joke, and I've shared this with you before, and it actually turned out to be a true story. So one brother wanted to get married according to Sunnah. He was doing his homework. He goes to the Sheikh, "Yeah, Sheikh, teach me this dua." So he goes back and teach him the dua all the time. He repeats. And then on the wedding night, he saw his wife first time fully loaded. Yeah, full makeup, looks, mashallah, and no hijab and all of that stuff. So he forgot the dua. So he's trying to remember. Um, then he said, "Subhana alladhi sakhar lana hadha wa kunna lahu muqrinin." Thanks for playing. Thanks for coming out. Wrong dua. But anyway, may Allah help us all. Allah. So now we understand, my brothers and sisters, it's not just putting all of that stuff and you put the best furniture, but you have no time to spend. So I'm going to ask you to do a few things. So when I came to the brothers and I asked them, and I remember this, wallahi, a story once, and I think I was teaching Home Sweet Home in Manchester. I could be wrong. But I remember saying this story and I cried because I was that guy. Yeah, Allah. But it changed my life though. I came back and I changed my schedule and all of that stuff. Alhamdulillah. So I remember one time that a father comes in from work and he's tired. His son comes up to him and says, "Dad, he wants to spend some time with him and talk." And the father was tired and he says, "Get away from me, son. Can't you see I'm tired?" So the son goes back and goes to his room and cries. Father, after he comes down, he realizes he made a mistake. He goes back to his son's room, says, "Sorry, son, what did you want?" So I just wanted to ask you how much you make an hour, Dad. So he told him, "I make $10 an hour, son." He says, "Here you go, Dad. Here's $10. Can I spend an hour of your time?" SubhanAllah. Can I have an hour of your time? Can I spend with you an hour of time? So spend time with them where you can't spend time with them. And I'll tell you one of the reasons why I call it the dollar sign dad. The dollar sign dad, brothers, is simple. Your children don't know you. You don't know them. All they see when they see you is a dollar sign on your face. Why? Because that's what you represent to them. You're the guy that brings the money. You're the guy that, as you thought that that's your job, is to put food on the table, clothes on their back, roof over their head. Wallahi, that's not your job. As I mentioned, it's part of your job. And you don't know your secret. They don't know you don't know them. You don't know their secrets. You don't actually know what they want to do. Not we want them to do. Yeah? You don't have they don't run to you for consultation. They go to their friends for do so because every time you do it, you have the 111. Everything is haram. Everybody's going on fire. La hawla wa quwwata illa billah. So a measuring stick. When you come home, my brothers, do your children run to you or run away from you? That's a good measuring stick to keep in mind. Okay? So please understand that if you don't spend time with them now, they won't spend time with you. Why? Because as I said, they will see you just as a dollar sign. Okay, so what does that mean? Well, when you spend the money for them, and may Allah bless you for that. But if that's the only relationship you have with them, it's a payback time. Now, when you put them through school and they have a job, and they don't need you anymore because they have the dollar, and that's all you represented for them. So guess what? When you grow old, because you didn't spend time with them when they were young, they're not going to spend time with you when you're old. And guess what? They'll pay you back. They'll put you in a senior home. That's the dollar sign, man. Remember that? They're not. You're going to stay with them. They're not going to look after you. I mean, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala protect us that we don't need to be dependent on anybody. Yeah. May Allah give us long, healthy, righteous life that we are going to be able to fend for ourselves and be independent, not ask anybody for anything. But that's what it is, my brother. So if you end up in a senior home with your son or your daughter or whatever, just paying the bills for you to be on your own, and that's the payback. So remember, it's a debt you have to repay. And the best way to make sure that your children are good to you, the scholars say, be good to your parents. "Birru aba'akum taburrukum abna'akum." Be good to your parents, your children will be good to you. So basically, what you're doing, my brothers and sisters, you are writing a book that your children will narrate for you. You understand? So how you were to your parents, your children will show you that the book that you've written with your own actions and deeds towards your parents. So if you're really wondering what's wrong with my children, you're going to have to look at how you dealt, and how you behaved, and how you treated your parents. Okay, so that's the one. The second one, my dear sister, what is a better career than you being raised three times higher than men? You can raise architect, you can raise skyscrapers, yeah, the high rises. But to raise a child, to raise a leader, yeah, to raise someone that will change the ummah, change the life of people, the one that can find the coronavirus cure and all of that, the one that will take the next Salah ad-Din, the next one that will find cure for cancer, the one that will be a defender for the ummah, the one that revives the sunnah, and so on and so forth. That's a huge one, Ukhti. You understand? As I said before, Wallahi, I want you to the best doctor. I want you to be best in the best profession in everything you do, but not on the account where you're going to lose your husband, and not on the account where you're going to lose your children. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on Judgment Day, He will not ask you, did you get your PhD? Or is He going to ask you, how much money did you get in the bank? Did you get the promoted, whatever? Did you spend the time, what did you do? Wallahi, it's not that. May Allah make you successful in everything you do. No problems, wallahi. Go ahead. As long as the job is halal and your husband, is okay with it, and you agreed to it before that, and you do your duties in front of Allah to your family, your husband, and your children. by all means, feel free. But make sure you have your priorities straight. So remember, the ummah comes from the word That's why Ibn Qayyim rahmatullah alayhi used to say, women are half of this ummah, and they give birth to the other half of the ummah. That means that they are the whole ummah. Now you understand who you are, Ukhti. So don't belittle yourself. Please understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala raised your honor because of that. And the three times, by the way, is the time, the three levels higher than your husband, is the time that you carried your child, and the time that the labor pain, and the time you weaned for 2 years, that you breastfed your child, nursed your child. That's the three times that men will never be able to compete. So please understand that. There is another definition of an orphan, by the way, not just the one that has a parents, but تخلت وأب مشغولة, but the one, some of the scholars say, the one that is an orphan, the one that is an orphan of the akhlaq. Could you imagine? The orphan, according to some of the definition of the scholars, the orphan is the one that has no akhlaq, no character. Okay, so you raised him to have the GQ look, the Gianni Versace, Giorgio Armani. That's the best tie. He's got the best the car, best everything. He's got the most expensive whatever it is. But you know what? There's no akhlaq, no deen, no akhlaq, no tarbiyah, nothing. It was not nurtured. He was just raised. This is something the scholars say actually that's important. So please, let's put the foundations down. We already said that, you know what, these children here that are driving you nuts right now because there's no school and you have to do your home schooling and all of that at this point. Well, they're a product of you. So when people come to my office and complain about the children, says, you know what, who raised these children? Why are you complaining about them? It was you who raised these children. And that's the direct imitate you. The children are your address. So please make sure. شقاء الآباء شقاء الأبناء شقاء الآباء, which means what? The difficulties that children are going to go through, the difficulties that the parents are going to go through. So you have a choice, my brothers and sisters, to invest in your children earlier on or to pay the price later on. So what does that mean? I pay my dues early, I cruise later. Yeah. So, but if I don't pay my dues early, I'm gonna pay my dues later. So it's your choice. I'd rather you invest in them to become a hujjah laka am alayk. I'm a plea for you, not against you. They'll make dua for you. Remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you that reward for everything you taught them. وَعِلْمٌ يُنْتَفَعُ بِهِ. And by the way, the scholar says these things are actually there. The children. Do you believe it? It says, إِذَا مَاتَ الْإِنسَانِ قَطَعَ مِنْهُ إِلَّا مِنْ ثَلَاثٍ. When a human being dies, their actions and deeds are cut off except for three. First of all, sadaqah jariyah. And we already know the hadith says the best money you spend is the best money you spend for your family. So it's not an expense, brothers and sisters, it's an investment. The second thing is, could you imagine every time you teach your child al-Fatiha, every time they read it, you get the reward? How you taught them how to pray. You even give them the tools to be able to do so. And the Quran and the Islamic education, even the schools or the halaqat, you give them the righteous company and the righteous environment, you give them the tools, you will get the reward. And it says, what? So how will the child know that even this hadith existed? And if they don't have the tools that you've given him? So please understand, it's a great investment, my brothers and sisters. So remember that. The example again that I've given, you plant the seed, you say Bismillah. And the water is lawful source of income. Yes? 2 sticks of Quran and Sunnah to give the straight and narrow. Tahdib, lead by example, your akhlaq. The fruit are your lineage, your progeny, and that's how you invest, inshallah. I want to also share with you, my brothers and sisters, for how to raise them in a level of the Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anhu and Ali Bayt al-Athhar wa Sahabati ajma'in. Remember the 21 theory? We said the first 7 years is you give them TLC, tender loving care. Hug them, embrace them, spend time with them, love them, get to know them, let them love you too. Be there for them, spend time, invest. The second 7 years is teach, discipline. Say right, wrong, halal, haram, acceptable, not acceptable. And then the last 7 years, be friendly. Because once they get in over the teenage years, they become rebels. If you did not go through the first and second phase properly, the third phase, you're going to be paid the price for a long time. So please make sure, my brothers and sisters, you spend time with them. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to ask you, brothers and sisters, to spend time with them to go on a date. Go on a date with your children. Okay, so I did tell you about the Mayab theory before. but this one here, I want to actually teach you something else. On your calendar, your Google Calendar, I'm gonna, depending on how many children you have, okay, you're gonna have to take one child at a time. Not to mention the family, the F, the Mayaf, the family time. You're gonna take the whole family one time, and you're gonna tell them, you know what? Okay, depending on how many children, every child gets to pick what they want to do on a weekly basis. That teaches them shura. It teaches them they matter. It teaches them the ownership. It teaches them the decision process. It teaches them that they actually are a part of this family, and you instill confidence in them. So this is one thing that you can do, inshallah. So what you're gonna do is, you know what? If it's a child, you know what? I go work out. I used to go work out with my son. Now he beats me. No problems. I'm very happy with that. MashaAllah. Now with daughter, you know what? Let's go shopping. Doesn't matter. Spend time with them. Learn about their hobbies. Learn about it and share it with them. Befriend them. It's important. It's an investment. So this is something that I'm going to ask you to do, now, especially if you're in and this isolation. And as this said before, it's not isolation. It's actually self-realization. It's self-discovery. You're discovering that you actually are a happy person. You already have a family that you long for. You already had a faith to hold on to, a friend to miss, and all of that stuff. You all had the happiness at your fingertips, but you didn't know it. Now take advantage of that. Take advantage of time before you have none. So take advantage of reaching your for that beautiful family time, raising your children properly. Let's do a halaqah, as we mentioned before, on a weekly basis. This is something that I'm gonna emphasize a lot. Halaqah, and remember, you start, then your wife, then the first child, then the second child. This is what you're gonna do. You're gonna raise them that way. And this is something that I'm gonna emphasize actually on how to raise them. So I'm gonna share with you something called the elephant theory. I'm sure you heard it before, but just a reminder of that. The elephant theory is simple. The elephant theory is when the elephant is young, they put a steel shackle with a metal chain cemented firmly in the ground. So no matter what they do, they're not going anywhere. So the elephant tries to get away so many times, and they're not going to be able to, and so they submit. They submit that they're actually they can't do it, and they give up. So they have a psychological block. As soon as the shackle is put on their foot, they surrender. So when the elephant grows up, what happens? As soon as the elephant feels the shackle on their foot, that's it. They stop. They don't even bother, because why? When they were young, they already tried. So they have this psychological block, and it stayed with them even when they're big and strong, and they can actually get away. They don't. So what do we learn from that? So if your child hears this from you, brothers and sisters, and you're supposed to be the one who protects them, you're the one who nourishes them, you're the one that you actually tell them they depend, they think the world of you. They think of you. They have the S on your chest. They think you. I remember, wallahi, when I was a child, I went back to the old apartment we used to live in. Everything looks so small because when you're young, all the furniture looks wow, and the parents look wow, and all of a sudden you grow and you're big and all those strong, and all these what? So they look at you as the whole world. When you crumble, the whole world crumbles. So remember, my brothers and sisters, when you keep that in mind, when you tell your children, you're a loser, you're an idiot, I wish I never had you, why are you so stupid, you'll never amount to anything. This is exactly what they will think of themselves. Because who you think who you are, who you're told who you are. So if the most beloved people, the one who love you, keep telling you you're an idiot, you're stupid, you're an amount to nothing, you're a loser, well, I must be a loser, I must be an idiot, I must be a stupid because my parents keep telling me this. So please differentiate between a behavior and a person. So if you talk to your children, says, honey, I love you, but your behavior is unacceptable. So that means you have to make sure that the way, especially when the time they're going to spend time with them more now than ever, especially in this time that we're going through. So be very careful what you say to them and differentiate between their behavior and themselves. I love you, son. I love you, daughter. But your behavior is unacceptable. And use that, you teach that, like the Prophet Muhammad SAW used to do it. He says when he saw a young boy not slaughtering properly, what did he do? He taught them first verbally. So he says he gave him the example. You know what? Can I show you? So he says, here's how to do it. And he explained it verbally. And then he showed him hands on. This is how you do it. Then he gave him the knife to go ahead and do it. So you understand the three stages? Explain to them, then show them, and then give them the opportunity to do so. Now, of course, there are differences between the children. Some of them are actually verbally inept. Like some people will actually get instructions verbally very well. Some of the children will not be able to get they don't absorb verbal instructions very well. They have like the hands-on type, right? So you have to show them, and you also have to know the difference between your children and who has what. And it's called the mirror effect, the carryover effect. So the mirror effect is what when you children see you happy, confident, love them. That's the mirror. They'll feed off that. And the carryover effect, what does that really mean? The carryover is I know my child is really a good person, get good akhlaq, is good, well mannered, but he may not be the most intellectual for them all. Okay, so I'm going to compensate that. I have another child that is very intellectual, the A student, right? But he's not really the best in character and dealing with the personal skills and so on. So I'm going to carry over something to compensate for that and feed off the positive. And please make sure that if your children do what they love, they won't have to work a day in their life. Look at the strength in them and invest in them. That means this person here has this strength in it. So I'm not going to ask him to do something that they're going to hate it for the rest of their life. It's a chore. It's going to be a miserable life. Please don't push your children to do something that you want to do or fail to do. Yes, and you want to see your own dreams in them. I understand the intention is good, wallahi, and I admire that. But please give them a golden opportunity to be able to be who they are, the best of who they are. So please invest in that. You have to look and research what their strengths are and invest in that and encourage it. So also the positive reinforcement is extremely important. I love what you did there. Oh, I really appreciate when you did this because of 1, 2, 3. So you explain to them why, even why you're disciplined, not just why you're rewarding, and don't go overboard either or. Yeah, I mean it's a long the discipline. I'm not gonna go into at this point, but remember, you're allowed to discipline, of course, but in a way that you cannot harm or do leave any damage. The hand cannot go above, the armpit should not be seen because that means you cannot go, and you cannot hit the same place twice. Don't hit the face or any private part, and so on. And if your child says, "A'udhu billah," you have to leave and continue. But don't tell your children that tricky. I mean, otherwise, as soon as they see, "A'udhu billah," may Allah protect you, inshallah. Okay, so let's finish with a few things. First of all, you have to have patience. I know, I understand, my brothers and sisters. It's not easy, wallahi. But the fruit of heaven is righteous, child. It's amazing. It's priceless. I remember when we heard about it, we've seen it. Your life changes. You make your whole decision based on that. Whether you stay in the country or leave a country, get a job, not get a job, everything's there. But the reward is there. So, what is the ultimate goal? Before I go to the ultimate goal and finish the session, inshallah, I want to tell you what is the ultimate goal. According to Shafi, and of course, one of the scholars, this is, what is my ultimate goal? My ultimate goal is to be with my children and family in Jannah. الحقنا بهم ذريتهم. Yeah, yes. So this is the righteous, the believers will spend some time together in Jannah. I always, even when my children, alhamdulillah, they're almost there. Yani, we're almost getting the second honeymoon. So I tell my wife, after we finish, we pay their dues. Now that they're going away, we're getting that empty nest feeling. It's amazing. So now that we're spending some time together, I'm happy. Yeah. And so now, you know what? I wish that we had a house that we can come back, live here. We can get you this, get you that, get back together. But could you imagine how happy you are when the family is back together and you see all your children and now you see grandchildren and so on? But could you imagine, my brothers and sisters, when we're actually together in Jannah, in paradise, talking about the dreams, talking about these things? But you have to pay your dues. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says now, يا أيها الذين آمنوا قوا أنفسكم وأهليكم نارا وقودها الناس. It has to be you, my brothers, and especially you, my brother. You know why? Because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was talking to Adam alayhi salam in Surah Taha, وَعَصَى آدَمُ رَبَّهُ فَغَوَى. It was you, my brother. Allah will hold you ultimately accountable for it. Of course, you have to make sure. I understand that. But please make sure that you know that ultimately you are the one who's responsible for this. Okay. Now, I'm not going to go into too much details of the parenting matters, but at least let's talk for some solutions. Okay, so now we're together here. What do we do? Okay, so we have to delegate. Keep them busy, because if they're not busy, dude, You're gonna be the one entertaining them. But I don't want to use the entertainment. Okay, go. Let's watch this movie. Let's watch this. You get somebody else to entertain them. Yeah, take advantage of it. This is a captured captive audience now. When you have a meal, you have a meal together. Capiche? That means what? No phones, no laptops, nothing, no interruptions. This one here, we shouldn't allow any phones on the table. Now I understand if you're a CEO or something, you're a president of a company or a president of a country. If you are, we need to talk to you. We need help, man. Go on, dude. So if that's the case, I understand exceptions. But the norm is, remember, when you come to the house, even if you're allowed to go outside, leave a box at the door. Leave it. And that's when you're leaving, taking it back. I understand sometimes you need the downtime and you do that. That's entertainment. It's a different life now. I know that. But at least when you talk to each other, like if you come and your children have the headphones in when you're sitting down eating together, and they, all that's up. Allah help us, Allah. Okay, so let's do this. Let's have maybe a Quranic competition. And I'm not gonna pull this sheikh and milkshake and whatever on you. La wallah. We're human beings. Let's have fun. You can have a competition, a Quranic competition, for example. You can have a hadith, whatever it is. Ask questions from the Quran itself. How many words, and all of that stuff. What is the land that was? There's so many questions, but also have fun. You don't have to have everything like deen. Yes, once in a while it's fine. It's good. Keep them. You can also have a board game that is sufficient. It reduces the intellect. You can have something together that is beneficial. You can watch something that's documentary that's going to benefit them. Use things that will be a positive influence on them, and so on and so forth. Have a story. Share something. They love that. Let them, delegate responsibilities. For example, you know what? My son takes care of the garbage or the outside. I do something like that. Everybody has a task that every day in the morning, this is yours, this is mine. I'll do this, you do this. Now I'm gonna learn. You know what? Let's cook together. Whatever it is, you teach me this, I teach you that. So these are the things that are going to be extremely important for all of these the times that you're going to use positively. And alhamdulillah, there's plenty of things to do together. Get to know one another again. Let's rediscover ourselves. Let's rediscover that alhamdulillah, Allah blesses us with doing this. Look around and be grateful to Allah for what He's given you, and take advantage of it before it's too late. Now, hopefully we will do this, and stage by stage we will take you there. Again, on a weekly basis, this post of Allah will alternate between the home sweet home, spouse in the house, and parenting matters, kids are out of school. So with that, I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you strength and the mental capacity to be able to withstand this lovely test that you're going through now. And don't sell your children. Keep them and stay married. All right, brothers and sisters? Get to know one another in a positive way. Enjoy yourself. Do your best with what you got. And remember, wastabir, be extra patient. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those. This is speech and follow the best of it. Jazakumullah khairan again for bringing this post of Allah in your homes. Homes being home. And parenting does matter. From Al Kawthar and everybody on behalf, we thank you. My mom thanks you. My doctor thanks you. And keep smiling. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد ان لا اله الا انت نستغفرك ونتوب اليك. جزاكم الله خيرا والسلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته. Brother Farid will take it away.
إنا أعطيناك الكوثر